Hello everyone, and welcome to IRL Lore with me, your humble docent, Segovex. Today, we will be looking at what may be my personal favorite myth of the entire surviving Sumero-Akkadian text corpus. I have decided to intersperse my commentary with the reading of the original source. Hope you don't mind. Let's begin. The Myth of Zu from Myths from Mesopotamia, Creation, the Flood, Gilgamesh, and Others by Stephanie Daly, 1991, Oxford University Press. The myth of Zu is remarkable for many reasons, but one of major importance is that it links supreme cosmic authority, or Enlilship, to the control of the Tablet of Destinies. It opens with an invocation of our hero Ninurta and a brief explanation of the story's context, before going on to describe the theft of the significant tablet, the search for an avenger, and the recovery of the Enlil power. This is an exceedingly ancient text, so we will encounter broken or illegible passages, for which I will say lacuna, which is the technical term for a break in a historical text, when we encounter them. Let's begin. Tablet 1. I sing the superb son of the king of populated lands. I praise superb Ninurta, beloved of Mami, the powerful god Enlil's son, Eku's child, leader of the Anunnaki, focus of Ininu, who waters cattle pens, irrigated gardens, ponds, in country and town. Now for my editorializing. I'm immediately struck by the word populated. I think this is highlighted because of the distinction from when the events of this story take place, before the human genesis, but after the primordial genesis, which will be referenced shortly. Enlil is, of course, Lord of Command, or Spirit, or Wind, as I've seen the second character of his name translated before, and denoting Lord, Lil meaning probably command in this case, but being variously translated, such as meaning spirit in component of names like Lilitu. Iku, or Ikur, is their planet-side home base, and is referenced in many other texts, name meaning house, mountain, something like that, denoting dwelling, Kur meaning mountainous. There were/are several structures from this era it could be referring to here. Most likely would be the ziggurat of Ur. Mami could be Ereshkigal or Ninlil, really not sure or that important. Ininu seems to mean something like princely abode, again meaning dwelling, Nin meaning prince. Most controversially is, of course, the Anunnaki, seeming to be specifically chthonic minor deities, whose name means those who from heaven to earth came, distinguishing them from the specifically non-chthonic Igigi, who remain in heaven, and whom we will hear about shortly. Back to the text. Flood wave of battles, who darkens the sash, warrior. The fiercest Galu demons, though tireless, fear his attack. Listen to the praise of the powerful one's strength, who subdued, who bound the mountain of stones in his fury, who conquered soaring Anzu with his weapon, who slew the bullman inside the sea. I'm not sure what the latter half of this may be referencing, but I can certainly explain the references to the flood and these Galu demons. Seemingly distinct from the deluge to come, these flood weapons are mentioned regularly in the Sumero-Akkadian text corpus as divine self-defense implements, including more explicitly later in this very text. As for the Galu demons, they deserve an entire dedicated video all their own, but in a nutshell they appear to be sexless, pseudo-living, purpose-built enforcers for the divines. Kurgara and Galatur sent to the underworld to retrieve Ishtar, the Double Seven who accompany Nergal to confront Ereshkigal, Humbaba guarding the Cedar Mountain, and likely the Bull of Heaven and Scorpion Men from later in that same epic as well, all examples. Conceptually, they seem related to future Arabic concepts of the Jinni, or the Hindu Rakshasa, or the Latin monstrum, and etymologically, the word seems related to the Arabic ghoul, such as in Ras al Ghul, meaning basically the same thing it does in English, ghoul or ogre. Algol was like the star, also Arabic derived, or the archaic Arabic word kolo, meaning an extremely fine powder, like makeup foundation. I also think the golem of Jewish myth seems and sounds way too similar to this to not be related somehow, but that's of course just my opinion. But Abraham's Sumerian origin is well attested. Back to the story. Strong warrior who slays with his weapon. Powerful one who is quick to form a battle array. Until now, no dais had been created for the Igigi. The Igigi would assemble for their Enlil power. Here now we begin to have the context the story takes place in revealed to us. The Igigi, heavenly deities whose names' components mean something like to watch and rotate, to see and to turn, had no dais yet. Whatever the significance of this may be, it seems to be early in the divine's presence on earth, and the Igigi must assemble for their Enlil power. Now, the text continues clarifying, however, we are, sadly, barely able to follow, as it is increasingly broken for the next few passages. Rivers were formed, the Tigris, the Euphrates, but springs had not yet sent their water to the land. Seas. The rest of this line is lost to a lacuna. Clouds were still far away on the horizon, lacuna of an entire line. All the Igigi gathered. To Enlil, their father, warrior of the gods, they his sons brought a report. Pay attention to reliable words. On Hihi, a wooded mountain of lacuna. In the lap of, possibly the Anunnaki, the rest of this line is broken. Lacuna has given birth to Anu, his beak is a saw, lacuna of a full line, which lacuna of the rest of this line, all the subsequent lines of this passage, have only a few words legible with the rest of the line lacunae. 11 coats of mail, lacuna, the mountains, lacuna, at his shout, lacuna, the south wind, lacuna, the powerful lacuna, wind. The mass, lacuna, whirlwinds, lacuna, they met and lacuna, the four winds, lacuna. This exposition seems crucial, and my disappointment at its loss is immeasurable. However, to try and interpolate from other texts, it seems that this could be describing the setup to events in between those described in Enuma Elish, the primordial Genesis, and the When Gods as Men Bore the Toil text describing the revolt of the Anunnaki and, of course, the human Genesis, i.e., after Earth was created, but before mortals were placed there. Main thing that makes me say this is the mention of the south wind, which played a large role in the destruction of Tiamat and the creation of Earth in that aforementioned Enuma Elish text. It may also be calling back to those climactic events as a sort of call ahead to foreshadow the coming, nearly as titanic clash of this text. Whatever the case, the text regains some clarity and places us as a fly on the wall for what appears to be Anzu's job interview with Enlil and his half-brother Ea, wisest and craftiest of the gods. Father of the gods, Duranki's god looked at him, but kept his thoughts to himself. He studied Anzu closely. He considered with lacuna. Who gave birth to? Lacuna. Why is this? Lacuna. Ea answered, his heart searching. The far-sighted one addressed his words to Enlil. Surely water of the spate begot Anzu, holy water of the gods of Abzu. Broad earth conceived him, and he was born from mountain rocks. You have looked at Anzu himself, lacuna. Let him serve you and never cease. In the hall let him bar the way to the innermost chamber forever. Lacuna of 3 lines. Duranki is mentioned, another controversially translated word, I guess. It's comprised of the characters Dur, meaning bond, An, meaning heaven, Ki, meaning earth, bond of heaven and earth. It seems relevant to Enlil's character. And one must ponder what motivations informed and possible bad blood existed between Enlil and Ea, bull and snake. The latter seems quite eager to place Anzu in such a security-critical role, hyping up his parentage and qualifications. And that is what I believe is happening here. waters in euphemism for sex being common across ancient Near Eastern cultures from pre-Hellenic Egyptian to the Western Semitic/Biblical to here in the Sumerian East. The story kind of picks up and speaks for itself for the next little bit here, so I'll let it. Lacuna, the word spoken to him. He, Enlil, took a cult center, Lacuna, and administered the orders of all the gods. He made no extra fate, and Anzu administered it. Lacuna, the word spoken to him. He, Enlil, took a cult center, Lacuna, and administered the orders of all the gods. He made no extra fate, and Anzu administered it. Enlil appointed him the entrance of the chamber which he had perfected. He would bathe in holy water in his presence. His eyes would gaze at the trappings of Enlil power, his lordly crown, his robe of divinity, the tablet of destinies in his hands. Anzu gazed, and fixed his purpose, to usurp the Enlil power. Anzu often gazed at Duranki's god, father of the gods, and fixed his purpose to usurp the Enlil power.
I shall take the gods' tablet of destinies for myself, and control the orders for all other gods, and possess the throne, and be master of the rites. I shall direct every one of the Igigi.
He plotted opposition in his heart, and at the chamber's entrance, from which he often gazed, he waited for the start of the day. While Enlil was bathing in the holy water, stripped and with his crown laid down on the throne, he gained the tablet of destinies for himself. He took away the Enlil power. Rites were abandoned. Anzu flew off and went into hiding. Radiance faded. Silence reigned. Father Enlil, their counselor, was dumbstruck, for he had stripped the chamber of its radiance. So Anzu gets the job, and it sounds pretty cushy. Just hang out and be Enlil's doorman. I mean, others have to go work in the mines, and that's not a very safe profession on your home planet, let alone on some weird, remote, feral world. Good work if you can get it, but naturally Anzu flubs it by getting greedy. I think the moral of the story is, don't ask for stuff, but don't steal stuff either, just get what's due to you. Anyhow, why Tablet's Radiance, though? Like, what I mean is, it seems like this Enlil ship is more about the office he occupies and the tech that it's equipped with than any inherent magical abilities all Enlil's own. His Durga chamber loses its radiance, and he can't call out. Food for thought is all. Let's continue. The gods of the land searched high and low for a solution. Anu made his voice heard and spoke, addressed the gods his sons. Whichever god slays Anzu will make our name great in all populated lands. They called the canal controller, Anu's son. The decision-maker spoke for him. They called Hadad, the canal controller, Anu's son. The decision-maker spoke to him. Powerful Hadad, ferocious Hadad, your attack cannot be deflected. Your name shall be great in the great gods' assembly. You shall have no rival among the gods, your brothers. Then surely shall shrines be created. Establish your cult centers all over the four quarters. Your cult centers shall enter Ikur. Show prowess to the gods, and your name shall be powerful. Hadad answered the speech, addressed his words to Anu, his father. Father, who could rush off to the inaccessible mountain? He has taken away the Enlil power. Rites are abandoned. Anzu flew off and went into hiding. His utterance has replaced that of Duranki's god. He has only to command, and whoever he curses turns to clay. At his utterance, the gods must now tremble. He turned away, saying he would not make the expedition. This formula is repeated almost verbatim for Gera, Anunitum's son, and master of fire, and then again for Shara, Ishtar's son and master of Lacuna, both of whom offer the same reasons for refusal as Hadad. The gods fell silent and despaired of advice. The Lord of Intelligence, wise one who dwells in the Apsu, formed an idea in the depths of his being. Ea formed intelligence in his heart. He told Anu what he was thinking in his inmost being.
Let me give the orders, and search among the gods, and pick from the assembly Anzu's conqueror. I myself shall search among the gods, and pick from the assembly Anzu's conqueror. The
Agigi listened to this speech of his. The Agigi were freed from anxiety and kissed his feet. The far-sighted one made his voice heard and spoke, addressed his words to Anu and Dagan.
Have them call for me Belet Ili, sister of the gods, wise counselor of the gods, her brothers. Have them announce her supremacy in the assembly. Have the gods honor her in the assembly. I shall then tell her the idea which is in my heart.
They called for Belet Ili, sister of the gods, to him. Wise counselor of the gods, her brothers, they announced her supremacy in the assembly. The gods honored her in the assembly. You know, for being the primitive gods of some people who just stopped being cavemen like a generation ago, they really spend a lot of time in staff meetings and seem to have pretty specific rules about seating the speaking floor. It's just like more than I expected, more than I would have expected for authors who, again, just stopped being cavemen like 5 minutes ago. More than I would have expected them to include. Then Ea told the idea in the depths of his inmost being.
Previously we used to call you Mommy, but now we shall call you Mistress of all gods. Offer the powerful one, your superb beloved, broad of chest who forms the battle array. Give Ninurta, your superb beloved, broad of chest who forms the battle array, then shall his name be Lord in the great gods' assembly. Let him show prowess to the gods that his name may be powerful. Let his name be made great in all populated lands. His cult centers, Lacuna. Lord Lacuna.
2 lines fragmentary. Mami listened to this speech of his, and Belet Ili the Supreme uttered, Yes. The gods of the land were glad at her utterance. The Agigi were freed from anxiety and kissed her feet. She called her son into the gods' assembly and instructed her favorite, saying to him, In the presence of Anu and Dagan, they announced the course of their rights in the assembly. I gave birth to all the Agigi. I created every single one of the Anunnaki, and I created the gods' assembly. I, Mami, assigned the Enlil power to my brother. Anzu has disrupted the kingship that I designated. He has obtained for himself the tablet of destinies, Lacuna. He has robbed Enlil. He rejected your father, stole the rights and turned them to his use. Make a path. Fix the hour. End of Tablet 1. I like to think about how that last line might be translated differently when considering the spectacular aerial battle to come. Plot course? Set departure time? Something like that? It almost reminds me of foreign language films depicting American soldiers, and when speaking they'll communicate the correct sentiments, but just using wildly incorrect jargon to what American soldiers would actually use. That having been lost in the translation. Tablet 2. Make a path. Fix the hour. Let light dawn for the gods whom I created. Muster your devastating battle force. Make your evil winds flash as they march over him. Capture soaring Anzu, and inundate the earth which I created. Wreck his dwelling. Let terror thunder above him. Let fear of your battle force shake in him. Make the devastating whirlwind to rise up against him. Set your arrow in the bow. Coat it with poison. Your form you must keep changing, like a Galu demon. Send out a fog, so that he cannot recognize your features. May your rays proceed above him. Make a high, attacking leap. Have glare, more powerful than Shamash generates. May broad daylight turn to darkness for him. Seize him by the throat. Conquer Anzu, and let the winds bring his feathers as good news to Ikur, to your father Enlil's house. Rush, and inundate the mountain pastures, and slit the throat of wicked Anzu. Then shall kingship enter Ikur again. Then shall rights return for the father who begot you. Then surely shall shrines be created. Establish your cult centers all over the four quarters. Your cult centers shall enter Ikur. Show prowess to the gods, and your name shall be powerful. The warrior listened to his mother's words. He hunched in trepidation, and went into hiding. The Lord marshaled the 7 of battle. The warrior marshaled the 7 evil winds, who dance in the dust, the 7 whirlwinds. He mustered a battle array, made war with a terrifying formation. Even the gales were silent at his side. poised for conflict. These 7 appear in the Era epic, may be the same as the double 7 in Diresh, Kagal, and Nurgle, and appear in their own dedicated text called, unsurprisingly, the 7 Evil Demons. They seem to be warriors or smart weapons or something of immense destructive potential, the kind of iron thunderbolt befitting divine beings, as this tale will soon show. On the mountainside, Anzu and Ninurta met. Anzu looked at him, and shook with rage at him, bared his teeth like a lion in sudden rage. In utter fury, he shouted to the warrior,
I have taken away every single right, and I am in charge of all the gods' orders. Who are you to come to do battle against me? Give your reasons.
Insolently his speech rushed out at him. The warrior Ninurta answered Anzu, I am the avenger of Duranki's god, who established Duranki, the Lacuna, of the broad earth of Lacuna, Ea, king of destinies. Anzu listened to this speech, then hurled his shout furiously amid the mountains. Darkness fell over the mountain. Their faces were overcast. Shamash, the light of the gods, was overcast by darkness. Adad roared like a lion. His din joined that of Anzu. A clash between battle arrays was imminent, the flood weapon massed. The armor-plated breast was bathed in blood. Clouds of death rained down. An arrow flashed. Lightning whizzed. The battle force roared between them. The powerful, superb one, Mami's son, trusted of Anu and Dagan, beloved of the far-sighted one, aimed the shaft at him from the bow's curve, but it did not go near Anzu. The shaft turned back. Anzu shouted at it, You, shaft that came, return to your reed thicket, bow frame back to your copse, bowstring back to the ram's gut, feathers return to the birds. He was holding the god's tablet of destinies in his hand, and they influenced the string of the bow. The arrows did not come near his body. Deadly silence came over the battle, and conflict ceased. Weapons stopped, and did not capture Anzu amid the mountains. He, Ninurta, shouted out and instructed Shar-Ur, Repeat to the far-sighted Ea the actions you have seen. The Lord's message is, Ninurta was encircling Anzu, and Ninurta was wrapped in devastation's dust, but when he set the shaft to the bow, drew it taut, and aimed the shaft at him from the bow's curve, it did not go near Anzu. The shaft turned back. As Anzu shouted at it, You shaft that came, return to your reed thicket, bowframe back to your copse, bowstring back to the ram's gut, feathers return to the birds. He was holding the god's tablet of destinies in his hand, and they influenced the string of the bow. The arrows did not come near his body. Deadly silence came over the battle, and conflict ceased. Weapons stopped, and did not capture Anzu amid the mountains. Shar-Ur bowed, took the message, carried the battle dispatch to far-sighted Ea. The Lord's message is... At this point, it repeats the formula of Anzu commanding the weapons to not approach his body again, so I'm not going to read it. The far-sighted one listened to his son's words, called out and instructed Shar-Ur, Repeat to your lord what I say, and everything I tell you, repeat to him. Do not let the battle slacken. Press home your victory. Tire him out so that he sheds his pinions in the clash of tempests. Take a throw stick to follow your arrows, and cut off his pinions, detach both right and left. This has got to be one of the most critical passages, as in my opinion, as it explicitly references the structure of a wing in the word pinion while describing these usually humanoid divines, then goes on to describe them using missile weapons. This is an aerial dogfight. But it's also just myth for ritual purposes, and our caveman ancestors just happen to be writing sci-fi this good by some kind of coincidence. Trust the experts, bro. I've heard, though I've never actually seen anything approaching an original source for this text, like not even just transliterated into Latin letters, let alone even like the cuneiform. Which actually makes me further convinced of the veracity and historicity of this story, because, of course, if there is any one that the capital T they would want to suppress, it'd be one as on the nose as this. Sorry, I heavily digress. Anyways, I've heard that the character used here for throw stick is Tilu, meaning something more like javelin. Not to say that there's no chance throw sticks could have still been in use at the time the ancient authors recorded this tale. They probably were. It's just that the written character looks a lot more like a javelin than a boomerang, in my opinion, and that would seem more applicable to what appears to be being described. Okay, back to it. Ea still speaking.
When he sees his wings and emits his utterance, shouts, "Wing to wing!" Don't panic. Draw taut from the curve of your bow, seize him by the throat, conquer Anzu, and let the winds bring his feathers as good news to Ekur, to your father Enlil's house.
I like just how anime all this is. Like, especially that the hero and villain get their outer space combat vehicles alongside each other and shout "wing to wing" before unleashing the special move on the weak spot. It's just, yeah. Ea then repeats the "surely shall shrines be created" formula. Shar-Ur returns to Ninurta and relays Ea's message verbatim. The Lord listened to the words of far-sighted Ea. He hunched in trepidation and went into hiding. The Lord marshaled the seven of battle. The warrior marshaled the seven evil winds, who dance in the dust, the seven whirlwinds. He mustered a battle array, made war with a terrifying formation. Even the gales were silent at his side, poised for conflict. Tablet 3. 3 lines fragmentary. Devastation, lacuna. A heat wave blazed, confusion, lacuna. A tempest, lacuna, to the four winds. Weapons slew the protection of frost. Both were bathed in the sweat of battle. Anzu grew weary, and in the clash of tempests, shed his pinions. He, Ninurta, took a throw stick to follow his arrows, and cut off his pinions, detached both right and left. He, Anzu, saw his wings, and emitted his utterance. But as he shouted, "Wing to wing!" a shaft came up at him. A dart passed through his very heart. He, Ninurta, made an arrow pass through pinion and wing. A dart passed through heart and lungs. He slew the mountains, inundated their proud pastures, inundated the broad earth in his fury, inundated the midst of the mountains, slew wicked Anzu, and warrior Ninurta regained the tablets of destinies for his own hand. As a sign of good news, the wind brought Anzu's feathers. Dagon saw this sign and rejoiced, called all the gods, and joyfully he spoke. The strong one has indeed slain Anzu on the mountain. He regained for his own hand the lacuna of Anu and Dagon. Come, let him come to us. Let him rejoice, play, make merry. Lacuna, the gods his brothers, and hear their secrets. Lacuna, the secrets of the gods. Let Enlil, the lacuna of the gods, his brothers, bestow on him the rights. Enlil made his voice heard, and spoke to Dagon. Lacuna, water, lacuna. When, lacuna, he took. When he slew wicked Anzu in the midst of the mountains, warrior Ninurta regained the When he slew wicked Anzu in the midst of the mountains, warrior Ninurta regained the gods' tablets of destinies for his own hand. Send him, and let him come to you. Let him place the tablet of destinies in your lap. Enlil made his voice heard and spoke, addressed his words to Nusku, his vizier. Nusku, go outside and bring Burdu into my presence. Nusku went outside, and brought Burdu into Enlil's presence. Enlil made his voice heard and spoke, addressed his words to Burdu. Burdu, I shall send you, I shall. Lacuna. So, I guess Enlil got a new doorman while Ninurta was off fighting Anzu. The valiant Nusku will appear again in the events of the anthropogenesis story yet to occur. Gap of a few lines. Ninurta made his voice heard and spoke, addressed his words to Burdu. Burdu, why have you come here so aggressively? Burdu made his voice heard and spoke, addressed his words to Ninurta, his lord. My lord Enlil, your father, sent me to you, Lacuna, to say, the gods have heard that you slew wicked Anzu amid the mountains. They rejoiced, were glad, and Lacuna made me come to your presence, and Lacuna, go to him, that he may Lacuna. 11 lines fragmentary, about 34 lines missing, then 3 lines fragmentary. Let him, Enlil, in his powerfulness, gaze upon wicked Anzu in Ikur. Warrior, in your powerfulness, when you slew the mountain, you captured Anzu. Slew him in powerfulness. Slew soaring Anzu in his powerfulness. Because you were so brave, and slew the mountain, you made all foes kneel at the feet of Enlil your father. Ninurta, because you were so brave, and slew the mountain, you have made all foes kneel at the feet of Enlil your father. You have won complete dominion, every single right. Who was ever created like you? The mountain's rights are proclaimed, the shrines of the gods of fates granted to you. They call upon Nisaba for your purification ceremony. They call your name in the furrow of Ningirsu. They designate for you the entire shepherding of peoples. Give your great name as Dooku for kingship. In Ilam, they give your name as Hurabdil. They speak of you as Shushinak in Susa. Your name is Anu's Lacuna. They give you as Lord of the Secret. Lacuna among the gods, your brothers. Lacuna, your father. Lacuna, who marches in front. They give your name as Pabilsag in Igalma. They call your name Lacuna in Give your name as Ninazu in Ikurma. Lacuna Duranki was your birthplace. In Lacuna they speak of you as Ishtaran. In Lacuna Zababa. Lacuna they call his name. Your bravery much greater than all the other gods. Lacuna, your divinity is surpassing. Wholehearted I praise you. They give your name in Lacuna as Lugalbanda. In Iigi Kalama they give you as Warrior Tishpak. They call you Lacuna or Lacuna in Inimaanku. Lacuna, son of Belet Ili, your mother. Lacuna, lord of the boundary era. Lacuna, Panigara. In Iakil, they call you Lacuna. Your name, Papsukal, who marches in front. Lacuna, surpassing are your names among the gods by far. Lacuna, you are thoughtful, capable, awesome. Your counselor, the far-sighted one, your father Anu, Lacuna, battle and combat. He granted you Lacuna, called you Lacuna of their Lacuna. 7 lines fragmentary, about 5 lines missing, 2 lines fragmentary. After a ruled line, 5 fragmentary lines and a few missing lines appear to give a concluding passage. So, there we have it. The Myth of Zu. This story is incredibly old and has existed in several forms, and was probably being telephone gamed back then due to its antiquity even in relation to these ancient authors. If they were writing it down here, it was probably oral folklore before that. So, I highly recommend you look into this for yourself. Look up these words, dispute my editorializing and translation notes, learn Sumerian, and memorize the entire Sumero-Akkadian text corpus. Casting a wide net is your friend. So just to recap some things that stand out to me from the story. The Tigris and Euphrates are mentioned. Ikur is near them. Elam, Susa, and Ur are all also referenced near the end of the text. All of these places definitely on Earth, just no people. Or no mortals, I mean. All the named characters in this text appear to be Dingir, a word usually translated to be indicative of divinity. That this is one of the lofty ones, a god. So the magic dudes from the sky have come to Earth and set up shop. They haven't made us Terrans yet, though we know they will. They just need to do fights first. Seems legit. How is it that we take for granted the most ancient anthropologically recorded history of so many cultures describes events like this? Like, yeah, myth for ritual purposes, but still, why this specifically? And how, with such syncretisms across impossible gulfs of time and distance? And it's hard to say the Sumerian myths haven't been hugely influential, not Zu so much specifically, but the rest of them. The parallels between the biblical Genesis to the Sumero-Akkadian primordial and human Geneses are difficult to ignore. The otherwise arbitrary association of immortality with somehow climbing up to the sky, that's a big one. What convinced so many people that there is an incomprehensibly powerful and intelligent force from the sky that can smite or reward you based on your actions. These stories alone could not have been so influential that they magically crossed the ocean and convinced the Inca, Aztec, etc. to share the same cosmology nearly down to the Yuga. A deluge myth, even something as specific as a super cool flying rainbow dragon with an unpronounceable name. Not without something extraordinary behind it all. And that gay pride Chinese dragon I referred to, of course, being Ningish Zida and Quetzalcoatl, respectively. Though it feels weird to say respectively when they are clearly the same entity by different names. It's not like there's some other genre of ancient anthropologically recorded history that omits the gods. Which is actually more insane to assert? That people before a certain point in history were simply incapable of describing real events without including the interference of these assumedly not real entities? Albeit incredibly specific and remarkably syncretic across impossible cultural and temporal gulfs. Or that these people who attributed the provision of new technologies like social organization, agriculture, metallurgy, literacy, etc. to beings from the sky, and who actually have these technologies to show for it, while others who lack them and also lack this religious cosmology do not, were perhaps describing something real. If you've never seen or heard of anything like this in your day-to-day life, as was the case for most of us for the last 4,000 years, I'm sure this sounds really hard to believe. But is there nothing real, or even potentially possibly real, that could be being described here? Are we really pretending that flight in a vehicle is impossible when we do it regularly now? One may ask how Ninurta turned into a bird to fight Anzu. Yeah. I ask how King Abdullah II of Jordan became a bird to carry out airstrikes against the Islamic State some years ago. I suspect they employed similar rituals. The Lord God, suddenly lapsing into the plural in early Genesis, let us make man in our likeness, after our image, echoing a very similar sentiment expressed by Ea in the Sumerian account of these events. It's an appalling violation of the Prime Directive, sure, but certainly not outside the realm of a modern suspension of disbelief. I guess our ancestors describing it makes it impossible, for as long as we pretend that reality ends at our understanding of it. Again, it's not like there's some other genre of the Sumerian text corpus that omits the gods. This was the purview of their priests. This was what the secrets of writing were used for, to preserve these tales of the times, ancient even to them, of the times before the deluge. I'm not even saying it was aliens. But even if I were, that's still objectively far less crazy than discounting volumes of Earth history out of hand simply because you are ideologically precluded from seriously considering the historicity or implications of them. And the worst part is, people are still going to say, oh, well, this character could be interpreted differently. Sitchin used spurious translations and meh meh meh. As if my response is going to be, oh, my mistake. That makes it perfectly reasonable for virtually every culture to have folklore relating to a cargo cult relationship with what appear to be extraterrestrials, and for this to be hand-waved as simply myth for ritual purposes, or whatever cope mainstream historiography is going with these days. That something very real convinced people that they must teach their kids these stories and impress their importance generation after generation, even to today. And I mean really empirically real, not this trust the experts scientism sort of self-identifying as real for health and safety. I mean really real. That's really my central only argument. But with that said, I'm all out of material. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, and share, and most importantly, go show your support over on my website, churchoftransphobia.com. Peace.